So I'd like to call the meeting to order of the Addison Northwest School District Board of Directors, September 11th, 2017. I'd like to accept the motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on the agenda, any changes or requests?
I mean, I guess there's a reason, but do we want to have the executive sessions back to back?
I think that there is a reason why they should stay where they are.
Sounds good.
I just have a question about the new materials were just sent to us this afternoon, which I have not had a chance to read.
Yes, I think the action plans or
Yeah.
I think we will leave them for October because
Okay.
I know I haven't had a chance to look at them either.
Yeah.
I'm sure most people haven't.
Just came at 2 o'clock this afternoon.
It's not a
It goes to the
mic,
video.
it just goes to the video.
You
Yeah.
can come closer.
Can you,
You wanna,
do you want to go
or
over?
move over here? We'll wait. I mean, you guys can't hear us.
There's
You
chairs
should
here,
definitely.
too.
And you could sit at the table.
I can't project in multiple directions.
I know. Well, over there you can't see the screen.
Oh,
so
right.
I'd rather see the screen.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
We'll just move up.
Anything else about the agenda? Okay, so all in favor of the agenda as stands, please say aye.
Aye.
Next is public communication. Anyone from the public have something to say? Nancy?
Hi, Nancy Ambrose, teacher, resident in Virgins, and member of the negotiating team. I'm very pleased that we came to a tentative agreement last week, a couple weeks ago, whenever it was, and I hope the rest of the board will support that.
Yes.
Hi, Jeff Bradford, resident of Waltham. Is there some place to be if you're public?
No, the camera will find you.
Okay, great. I wanted to say three things. One, I wanted to echo Nancy's comment. Very pleased as a resident to know that we've come to agreement with the teachers. I also want to express my appreciation for the new approach that the board engaged in order to get there and the amount of time and energy that took. It was a substantial sea shift, and I think it was a good thing. So thank you very much for that. Second thing is, I got my tax bill. I'm very pleased to see that my taxes went down and that it appears that the full 10 cents, at least in the town of Waltham, for this year was preserved because the rate is 10 cents lower than it was last year. So there too, a lot of hard work to get there, and I appreciate that very much. Third thing I wanted to say is don't be afraid to ask for help. So as you organize and form committees, and I'm especially thinking about facilities and such, you have expertise throughout the community that you could tap, and that would give you a bit more horsepower to support your work with all of the commitments that you have. So,
Thank you very much for all
very welcome.
all three tidbits there.
Thank you.
Any other public communication?
So, food service, and I'd like to make a request of you guys tonight. 2010, what's that? Oh, I'm sorry, my name's Carol Kaufman, and I reside in Addison. So, Act 153 of 2010, it reads it reads to provide voters opportunity to make local decisions regarding school choice and other enrollment options in Vermont public schools and in approved independent schools that are appropriate for their community. So far, all the school governance studies have focused on unified unions. I requested a complete study during the last Unified Union Study Committee and was told there was not enough time. So now we do have time. Superintendent Canning has informed ACS employees to seek other district-wide positions because of the imminent closing of ACS. In the spirit of Act 153, I would like to request the school board to appoint an informal school choice study committee to report their findings back to you. Before any school closings, I would like the following questions answered about school choice: the impact on town growth and viability, the impact on students and length of time on buses, potential population growth, potential education improvement, potential savings, service to local families, school choice in every survey that you'll find when it comes to the families. There's no distinction between any party groups. That distinction only appears when you get to Montpelier.
Okay.
Potential impact in the classroom and potential impact on teachers' unions, potential impact on the administration.
Thank you. So we've not been discussing any school closures. And in fact, all the schools are preserved for at least 2 years into the unified district. And school choice policy will be on the agenda for this year. So thank you for your comments. Any other public comment? All right. Thank you, everyone. Sorry, I'm trying to talk to everyone here. That brings us to board education. Addison Central School, Travis? Where's the others?
First, I'd just like to welcome you all here at Addison Central School. It's great to have you all here. We're excited about the new school year. And I would like to just introduce, we have two members of my staff who would like to present today. Share with you some of the things that are going on at Addison. We're excited to share that with you. So, the panel with that, and let them introduce that.
So I'm Tara Trudeau. I've been a math specialist here at Addison for the last 11 years.
And I'm Allison Bazzacca, interim teacher here.
So over the last few years, as we've lost classroom teacher positions and started multi-aging, we've had to think creatively about how to group kids. And for a long time, we were regrouping kids by grade for math. Last year, we had this opportunity to combine kindergarten and first grade due to some of the kids we had. We had some kindergartners who really needed to work on more challenging things. We had a bunch of first graders who really needed to work on some kindergarten skills. So we had the opportunity to co-teach a K-1 math last year.
And one of the things that works so well for Tara and I working together, we have the same teaching philosophy, but we also have the same BMI math degree. So we team really well together because educationally we have the same thoughts.
So we did a bunch of things to personalize learning, and we're going to share a few of them with you tonight.
So on something like the dominoes that you see up here, we have them color-coded, or we know what the leveling is. The kids never feel the difference in what we're doing. They just think they're playing a game.
Another thing we've done school-wide, which really helped us personalize learning for our kiddos in K-1 math, was curating our online resources. So there's a million different math games and songs and stories that kids can access at school and at home. But I was constantly talking with teachers and kids and parents about which ones were good and which ones weren't so good, because there's also a few very popular math game websites that have nothing to do with math and are just full of ads as well. So I've done this school-wide now, but for K-1 it really helped us differentiate. Kids can choose what they want to work on. Some kids we let level up to another grade. In kids who are really far off grade level, either higher or lower, can have their own page there, which has just right resources they can access.
And not only that, is that kids are able to use the iPads. You aren't seeing that, but we do that with them. And we're trying to bring them into the 21st century and build their technology skills. And it's actually amazing how quickly the older kids help the younger kids and how quickly they learn to use technology because it's in the classroom and they're doing it every day.
And the other thing is it's great for them to access it at home. It's something that all the families here know where to find it. It's in the same place for every classroom. And families can see what kids are working on at school. Kids can practice at their level at home. In the literacy world, you might have heard about browse boxes. Literacy teachers have been using them for years. It's books that are just right for the kids right now, the things they can read independently. We kind of stole that idea and applied it to math. We presented our kids with math boxes. They're full of little activities. They're just little pencil boxes. They're full of activities that are at their just right math level. Dice games, little puzzles, cards, counting strips, things that they need to work on right now.
Not only that, is we work in a station model when we're working together. And if you notice, these kids are on the floor. Sometimes kids are having a rough day or for whatever, they don't want to work with a partner. This is an activity they can go to on the floor and they can do by themselves. And because we've modeled what these activities are, as you see, they all have them and they know what to do with them, so it doesn't impact the learning for the rest of the kids that day.
And another thing, we kind of developed this one as the year went on. Some kids were pretty good about seeing different levels and picking what's right for them. Other kids still needed some help. They said, oh, this is too easy, but I don't know what a harder one looks like. We also have parent volunteers in this group, other volunteers, substitutes, people coming in and out that want to work with our kids. So we developed this color coding system of just green dot, yellow dot, red dot for some stuff. Green being the easiest, yellow being the next level, and red being the most challenging. That way kids, if yellow was feeling too easy, they could try red. If yellow was feeling too hard, they could try green. It helped them and it helped all the other adults coming in and out of the classroom see where our levels were. Usually when the kids are in the stations rotating around, they're often in mixed ability groups. As you can see, the centers themselves are differentiated, so there's usually someone there who can help out. And during that time, sometimes we're just both floating around. Other times, one or both of us is pulling a small group on the side to work on a specific target.
And, one other, are these resources made available to the other schools in the district?
A lot of them are things from Bridges. A couple others are things we got from, about 5 or 6 years ago, we had a lady, Lori Silvis, come and present a workshop in the district. Other things are just things we found online or things, you know, the math, to fill the math boxes, you need a lot of parts and pieces and little things. So it took us a long time to pull those things together, but they're kind of from all over the place. We're happy to share anything we have if we still have the digital file or the hard copy, or, you know, I've been collecting these little games for 5 years, 6 years we've been doing math boxes, so we definitely didn't have this variety when we started.
Yeah, they're great, thank you.
So I was talking to Allison over there. This actually supplements the Bridges math program that all of this.
Well, a lot of it is, like a lot of these games are Bridges games, but sometimes we just have to make our own spinner or steal a spinner from a different grade level to widen that. We had a very low kindergartner and a very high first grader, probably the lowest kindergartner and the highest first grader I've ever had, and I felt like we met everyone's needs in the same room.
Nice. I think at some point, and maybe I misheard, VMI training?
Yeah, the Vermont Mathematics Initiative, it's a master's degree
Thank you.
program
Thank you.
offered at UVM. Well, thank you for your time. And,
Thank you.
Really, really.
Want me to just switch it over to Kathy Alexander?
Oh, sure,
or
I
do you
didn't know,
want me to-
I thought you were coming up to say one.
Oh, no, I don't want to take a.
Yes, please.
So I would like to introduce Kathy Alexander. She is the director of our food collaborative with the Addison Northeast Supervisory Union. And when I first met Kathy, she came to kind of describe for me how it is that she was able to make some improvements in the program in Addison Northeast. And so she's going to share that with you this evening. And I think you'll find this really informative. So welcome, Kathy, and thank you for being here.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here. Let me make sure I know how to move this forward. Is there a...
Oh, yeah, perfect. Okay, good.
I know I was supposed to come earlier, so it feels like a long time coming that I didn't have a chance to talk to you as a board, but I'm happy to do that now. And I will leave time for questions I guess I want to start by saying that my background is actually in education. A lot of people don't know that, but I have a degree in special education about 100 million years ago. So that's kind of where my passion for the work that I do now comes from, is really wanting to support learning from a very long time ago. And it's a really long story how I ended up where I am today, but in my mind there's this just amazing relationship. And for my own professional work, in terms of supporting kids to learn and families to grow, it feels like just the right place to be supporting nutrition programs in schools. I think there's an amazing link, and I'm sure you would all agree, between education and nutrition, or the ability to learn and kids having success and being well fed, right? It's not rocket science, really. So that's kind of the place that I come from in all of this. And it was important for me to start my presentation today by saying that, because from now on you're going to hear about numbers, which is not really where my passion is, but it kind of needs to be. So the passion is around food and kids and learning and community. And we have to talk about numbers and how we make that work within a school system. So there's your preface. So I will start by just kind of giving you, I don't expect you to read all this. It's way too many words on a PowerPoint. I went to a comedian performance this weekend, and she spent about 10 minutes chastising people that did PowerPoint, so I'm feeling a little bit self-conscious about even having a PowerPoint. But what the point of what this slide shows you is there's a lot of work in school nutrition. There's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes that end up translating into having a beautiful tray of nourishing food on a plate for kids to enjoy in the morning and then midday, so that they're well nourished and they can go back to class. So it's not just about that, what's in red, which is recipe development and then putting the meal together, preparing the meal. There's a lot of things that have to happen in order for that to take place. Much of that has to do with securing funding for those things to happen, and then meeting regulations. So we have enormous regulations through USDA that we have to meet within the meal system, and that's a lot of what this has to do with. So meal preparation is one of the pieces, and the pieces in red is what our staff on the ground do every day. They're working to get those meals out. It's a lot of work for them. I will say that I feel really, really honored to be working with both the staff in Addison Northeast and the staff here. It's an incredible group of people, and what we've seen in terms of our new structure, which is a kind of super unified structure where we have all of our staff over in Addison Northeast and all of our staff in Northwest, they're really starting to share with each other and compare notes and get tips and share recipes, and it's really quite wonderful to see that. But those guys are doing all the work in red, and then there's all this other stuff going on. The school nutrition program is an independent program within the school system, right? So we operate independently in terms of our finances, or we intend to anyway, and we have a broad reach within the schools, and our intention is to operate with a business model so that we can be successful not only in the service that we deliver to students, but also financially. Okay. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. So here's the rub. We have child nutrition or school nutrition, and we have education. And our goal, what we're trying to do really, is put these two things together. And over the course of the last 20 years, I've learned a lot about how to do this successfully. And what I want to convey is where some of the challenges come up in trying to do these two things together at the same time. So there's the education model, where we want to educate everyone together, and then there's the business model, right? So in a business model, when we're talking about feeding kids, We design menus. I mean, if I had a restaurant and the restaurant was just for kids, I would design the menu. And I would design it to maximize sales and participation, right? Has anyone ever owned a restaurant? Sometimes people have, or a food business. So you figure out what people want to eat, and then you put that on your menu. And that's how you get your customers. So in child nutrition, we have to adhere to federal regulations. Now, I'm not complaining about those regulations because I think they're really good. The federal regulations keep us focused on healthy nutrition. They're based on good science. They're based on current research for the most part. And there's some things that we could all take issue with here and there, but for the most part, it's trying to keep kids healthy. But this is a difficult, this is two difficult things to manage at the same time. So in a business, we're about generating revenue, right? And we do that by meeting our expenses through sales. Hence, we serve things that people like, and they buy a lot of it. In a school, we have to generate revenue in different ways. We have to make sure our pricing is in keeping with what we believe families can afford, because we can't have kids coming to school. And I mean, I think even now the pricing that we have is hard for families to afford, and it's pretty cheap. And you'll see in a minute that it doesn't meet the cost of the meal in almost every case. So this is, again, one of the rubs we have with generating revenue. Thirdly, we have to monitor program operations, and we do that in our businesses, and we also do it in child nutrition. So those are really similar. In child nutrition, we're monitoring the federal regulations. We actually have people from the state that come in, and they do a rigorous investigation of our programs to make sure we're meeting all our federal mandates. That's actually happening in Addison Northwest this year. It's a 3-year cycle. So this year will be Addison Northwest cycle. So we're not so much looking at, are we doing okay with spending and inventory management? That's what we do in the business model. We're looking at also, are we meeting all of our reporting requirements to the feds? Are we meeting all the nutritional requirements that we're supposed to meet? And it's very rigorous. I will just leave it at that. So in a business, we're promoting and marketing our program and meals, and we're doing that too. I think we do a terrible job at this in child nutrition, mostly because we're doing all the other stuff. And one of my goals this year is to do a little bit better at this particular activity, because I think it's really important. But we do, in child nutrition, our goal is to expand our programs to make sure that as many kids as possible have access to a healthy school meal, whether it's breakfast, lunch, or, as you know, we also do after-school meals. In child nutrition, this is a key one. In businesses, we set wages and benefits based on the sales that we're making and based on how well our business is doing. And in our child nutrition programs, we're setting wages and benefits based on contractual agreements. I think that's a really good thing because we can pay people a lot more than they can get on the market in these same kinds of jobs, and we can offer insurance. So it's really good. But it's important for me to highlight that it's a very, very tough spot to be in when you're running a business, to have someone else deciding wages and benefits for your employees, even though it's beneficial to everyone. And finally, setting goals and direction. In a business, you're really analyzing your program and operations all the time. And in child nutrition, we do that. And in addition, we're coordinating our activities as much as we can with school-based activities also. So we're really trying to be part of the school and be accommodating. So one of our goals, and I don't know, I think we do this pretty well, it's something that we always need to work on, is to accommodate the school and the needs of the school, partner with the school as much as possible. So is that clear? Kind of, yeah. So the role of our programs, as far as I can see, is we're central to success in education. I mean, that's how important it is. And I go around to my schools. I'm in every school once a week. That's the goal. And when I'm there, I make sure they know that their job is super important, that kids don't learn unless they're well fed. And I feel really, really strongly about that. This is really important. In our first joint staff meeting, which was, for me, so fabulous and fun, it was 30 people with 30 staff members. They came up with a new mission for this joint effort, and it's joining forces within our community for a healthy, hunger-free future. And I thought that was great. It took us not very long. It was an incredibly great conversation, and it was really a reflection of a shared vision. And I think it's really important, and part of my job is to just promote that vision all the time and remind people that, yeah, the eggs didn't come in, the beef delivery was all messed up today, we're gonna have to adjust menus tomorrow, and this is what you're doing. This is so cool. This is really important work. This is all of our schools in this new collaborative. 10 schools, 29 staff, 2 assistant directors, 1 director. We're serving breakfast and lunch in all of those 10 schools. In addition, 3 schools are serving snacks, 5 schools are doing after-school meals, 3 schools are vending to preschools, 1 of which is even outside of our school districts. 6 schools are doing the fresh fruit and vegetable program, which offers free fresh fruits and veggies to kids in classrooms every day. And 8 schools have pretty amazing school gardens. So that's what we're dealing with.
Can I stop you just real quick?
Yeah, of course.
How many schools in total, did you say?
10. I met a woman the other day I thought that was a lot, and then I met a woman who was in charge of the Long Island school district. She made me seem very small. It's like, oh, well, I'm not complaining anymore. Not that I complain. Okay, so finances, that's kind of what I'm here to talk about, and I'm going to go quickly and let you ask questions. But it's important, right? All of this is really important, but it needs to work financially. What I can tell you is that I've been in Addison Northeast for this is my 8th year, and we are making it work financially. But it didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen on day one. It took a lot of work. It took a lot of scrutiny of our programs and our budgets. It took a lot of conversations with our staff and working with our vendors. And we're there, and I think we've been there for like 3 or 4 years where we are actually doing well. We still get contributions from the schools, and I think that's fair. And I'll talk to you a little bit about that in a little while. So we are working towards financial solvency. That's the goal. So just to give you kind of a picture of, I know it's a little maybe hard to see. Oh yeah, and this didn't come out at all. Oh, that's really annoying. Well, I'll tell you what happened here, what's going on here. I'm not sure what happened, but on the right, let's see, your left over here is revenue. And each of these categories that don't have any names anymore. Terrible. So revenue comes from a bunch of sources, not that many. So revenue from sales is number 1, and the sales revenue is the blue right down here. Sales, revenue from sales. And the other large portion of revenue comes from our federal reimbursements. So for every meal we serve, we get a reimbursement, right, from the federal government. We report the numbers every month, and we get reimbursements from the government. So those are the 2 big revenue sources. The revenue source in purple is, I'm pretty sure that's our local revenue source. And the revenue source in other, which is the little green one at the bottom, is just everything else. So we get vendor rebates, we do catering, we do fundraising, anything we vend to the schools the preschools that I talked to you about, anything that we can do to make sure that we're solvent, we do. And so that's the other category.
When you say local, that's the school.
School boards, yeah, that's the local contribution. Some people call it a subsidy. I call it a contribution. So that's on that side. The other side is our expenses. And this is based on current budgets, but it's also, both of these pie charts sort of are reflective of how things work in general in school nutrition. Like this is very similar to the Addison Northeast. I did develop this based on Addison Northwest, but in general, this is really very typical of school nutrition anyway. So over there on the right is the expense side of things. The largest portion in the dark green is salaries and benefits. Okay? And then the portion in blue is food, right? It's food. So that's what we're, those are the two things that are the most important. The little tiny one is supplies. We always pull that out because it's an important component of our work, but it's about 4%. And then the other category is equipment repair and maintenance, any kind of equipment we need to buy, advertising, dues, fees, software licenses, professional development, all that other stuff. Okay, I'm really sorry this didn't come out as beautifully as it did last night, but you get the picture, right? Okay. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, this is a little bit like a primer for child nutrition, and I want to make sure people really, really understand how our finances work. And it gets a little complicated, so I did a little color chart just to make sure this was all clear, how we get our revenue. So there's basically 3 sources of revenue. There's some more I'm going to have on the other page, but these are the main, this is the 2 big portions of the pie, the revenue pie that I showed you a minute ago. And one is state and federal reimbursement in the light blue, that's big, and then sales, and then the value of donated food. And that's just a little portion, but it's important to know that it exists. So if you go down each of these columns, this is my little chart, it looks, I hope it's not too complicated, but state reimbursements and federal reimbursements, that's the actual amounts. And these are paid students in high school, paid students in elementary school, free student meals, reduced student meals, and adult meals. Of course, they're not subject to any reimbursement, but those are up there. As you can see, there is a federal reimbursement even for students who pay for meals. Okay? There's still a reimbursement for those students in both elementary and high school. They're the same. What's interesting to note is that the 40 cents and the $2.89 both add up to $3.29. And in Vermont and in a couple of other states, this used to be a portion of the meal that the parents would pay for. That no longer happens in Vermont. The state pays for that. It's now a state reimbursement. But in most other states, that 40 cents for the reduced student is paid for by the parent. We voted on that in Vermont in the legislature, I don't know, now it's been 6 years. It started with breakfast and now it's lunch, and we were the first state in the nation to do both breakfast and lunch as a state reimbursement. Okay, so you got that piece, right? Everybody's clear on that? Then there's sales. Those are the current prices for our meals or lunch meals. We're just doing lunch here. Breakfast is over on the other side. Those are current pricing. And then we do get a dollar amount, it's 23 cents per meal in federal USDA foods, formerly known as commodities. Lots of people think of those as like canned meat. Sure, and the truth is, when I started in child nutrition 20 years ago, I walked into a kitchen with canned meat, and it was difficult for me. But now it's not like that at all. It's not surplus food. People used to think of it as surplus food, and yes, that's true. In the 40s, when the program started, it was surplus food, and it was supporting farmers. This is really food that's just on the market that the government sets aside money to purchase in the regular market. It's not surplus food. And we get an opportunity to purchase the food. We actually, in Addison Northeast and now in Addison Northwest, we're going to put a lot of those dollars into fresh fruits and vegetables. We have a choice to do that, and so I've split off half of it, and most of it's going to, not most of it, but quite a bit of it's going to go to fresh fruit and vegetables. So that's your total in terms of what we can get for every meal. And you'll see how that's going to compare with the cost. Okay? Is that pretty clear? Is that okay? All right. So other sources of revenue, just so you have a sense of where else we're getting money, is the local contribution. And again, I do say local contribution. I feel like when you allocate money to your school nutrition programs, it's an investment in the health and well-being of students and in their success in learning. And I'm not just saying that because it sounds good. I mean, I really, really, really believe that. I don't believe it's a subsidy. I think it's an investment in doing the work that we have to do really, really well. It also happens to be equal to the expense investment in staff health benefits, and I think it's important to point that out. So another source of income is our vendor rebate, and what's kind of good about our new collaboration is we have one single vendor. We're part of a food buying collective. That's a statewide collective that the schools in both Addison Northeast and Addison Northwest have been in for a long time. You don't have to pay a fee. It's just been around forever. What the benefit of that is the collective does all the procurement of food, and now procurement is, there's some pretty strict federal regulations around how food is procured. So, and we have to go out for a bid on pretty much everything. Well, our food buying cooperative does that for us. So we have one vendor, it's Reinhardt Foods, and they won the bid. They've won the bid for the last 15 years, I think. And because we're together, it's a tiered pricing system with this particular vendor, and being together, we're able to, I've convinced them that we are one big happy family of 10 schools, and so we're at the highest level. So it's 7.75% of our food purchases are rebated to us. So that's, I mean, it equals about $50,000 between the two districts, which is no small thing. Okay, grants and contributions. So I don't have any current grants to tell you about that we're working on. We have some equipment grants. Actually, that's not true. We got our point of sale systems in all the schools now, which hopefully will be perfect in a month, but right now they're not. But they will be. But we did get a grant to purchase them, and they're quite costly. It was a half grant from the state for half of it. But there will be farm to school grants down the road. There's a state and federal equipment grant. We've gotten that. I've gotten a number of Dairy Council grants, and we'll be applying for those. And there's others. So those are another thing that I'm constantly looking for money in that way. And then a la carte, catering, other sales that we do, those are important pieces of our business. So the high schools primarily are available for catering. Not your wedding or anything, but if you have a dinner meeting, you should think about the high school because they're there and they make amazing food. Also, we do generate revenue when we increase our programming through summer meals programs, after school snack and supper. Those programs do provide higher reimbursements for us, and they're intended to help us, they're intended to help us build revenue that we need to make up during the school year, which is what you're going to see in about 1 minute, why we have to make up revenue. So there's two primary expenses in our programs, food and labor costs. And this is just a picture of where we get our food costs. This is pretty general because food costs really do fluctuate. I meal cost menus on a monthly basis just so I have an idea of where our food costs are, and these are kind of average costs based on having done a lot of menu costing. So in general, our meals are costing about $1.78 for the food if we add in condiments. What's interesting about this is that we have requirements for vegetables. We have to serve 3/4 of a cup of vegetables. So that's required. That's part of the federal requirement, and 1/2 cup of fruit. A cup of milk, 2 ounces of grain, and 2 ounces of meat. So this does affect what we can budget for. We have to meet some of those minimums. And even within the vegetable category, we have to meet this variety of vegetables. So in a week, we have to make sure there's a weekly serving of all of those different things on the menu. Are there questions? I don't want to go too far. Yeah.
So I think I heard you say that, and I don't think I have the word right, but the coming together of Northeast and Northwest saved.
I don't have the words right either yet. But
coming together,
yeah.
It'll work for now.
Yeah, it works for now.
That you said it saved $50,000?
So what I said was that we became eligible as a group. Mm-hmm. We put all of our schools together, and because we're managed under one, basically me, we can put all of our expenses together at our vendor, and they give us a rebate.
Right, and so what I
And
was
it amounts
asking.
to about $50,000.
And is that
In
$50,000?
In both.
In
It's,
both?
it's,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
it's,
the point.
yeah.
Thank you.
It's about 30 and 25, yeah.
So were we at a lower percent this time?
Much lower. I am not 100% sure, but many of your schools were getting no rebates because they were all independent. So basically you had there was very little benefit being in that collective. But now, even if you had just gotten all your schools together, that would have been one thing. But yeah, now it's much better. Yeah, it's good. Okay, so this is the cost for breakfast. Same idea. Okay.
Cups of milk a day.
Now we get on to labor costs. So, this is the tough one. So there's a couple of things I want to talk about labor costs. Again, I want to reiterate, I'm really happy that we work in a system where we can pay our staff well, and that they have insurance. But it costs money. And so there's two things about labor. This is basically the current average labor cost per meal, $2.23. It's based on a rough budget and rough estimate of what we're looking at here in this county. And it's kind of a dynamic number because I have only been here for a couple months.
And you're not breaking out breakfast and lunch?
No, not breaking it out breakfast and lunch. This is just a really general cost. But it's a place to start. It's important to know. And none of these are hard and fast when you're doing these kinds of analysis. It's really just a really helpful way to sort of look at the whole picture. That doesn't mean that every single meal, if you go in and you figure out how many hours people work, that's exactly what it's going to cost. But in general, I think it's pretty close and pretty fair. We also look at, and this is an important thing, that when I monitor programs on a monthly basis, one of the things I am looking at, and in a very open way with our staff, is their meals per labor hour. So that means how many meals are they producing in an hour, because it has a direct effect on our budget, right? If they can be super efficient and productive during the time that we allot, then we do better financially, and then they have jobs that can pay insurance and things like that. Yeah.
So I'm curious about the gap between the meals per labor hour that we are experiencing and what they call industry standard, or what the slide calls industry standard.
Yeah.
Not without knowing more about what industry standard means, I don't mean to imply that I'm advocating that we meet that, because that can mean a lot of different things. But what is that?
I was going to get to that.
Okay.
So the industry standard is there as a goal.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a fair goal, 10 to 14 meals per labor hour. It's set for specifically schools that are doing scratch cooking. And it's good to be there. Currently, Addison Northwest was at 8.29 when I first started here. One of the things, there's two things you can do that affects that, right? One is work less time, and the other is produce more meals. So the direction that we're going in here is producing more meals. So producing more meals with the time that people have, and that's a really reasonable goal. And this is something that I've talked to every school in both Addison Northeast and Addison Northwest about. What are your goals? What's the goal that's going to get you to the most productive place you can be within this framework of having an industry standard? And just one more thing, in Addison Northeast, we are about 10 to 11, and some of the ones that are higher, some schools have been as high as 15. That's because they're vending meals to daycare centers. So they're doing their regular meal, right? And then they're making 40 more meals for the daycare center. Right. It's the same meal. It's really easy for them to do, and it doesn't cost labor, but it brings in profit.
So do I infer properly that one of the reasons for that gap might be like a low demand side of the equation?
I don't know if it's low demand or I don't know. I don't know if it's demand, or what I can tell you is that we're setting some new goals in all of the schools right now, and they're all meeting them. Already I'm seeing in the first 8 days, I'm seeing an increase in participation, particularly in the high school. The high school, I saw the principals at the high school come in They were super proud to tell me today that they served 288 meals today. It did rock. The goal that I had for them, which was 100 more meals, was 275 a day. And they got to 288 today, and they were super happy. So this is the kind of thing, and that's what's going to bring our meals per labor hour up. We didn't cut time there. Well, not by design. We still have a job open. So they are actually working a little too hard right now. But we're hiring new staff, so the time overall has not been cut at all, but the number of meals have been increased, and it's more about what are we going to make that's going to appeal to kids.
I would imagine there's a strong correlation between volume and meals per labor hour. Is that true, or
Yeah.
or is there a minimum threshold, and beyond that?
Yeah, there is a threshold. I mean, we're learning about it in Addison Northeast, where we're vending meals to the preschools, like how much is reasonable to fit into a day. I think we're starting to understand that for sure. But I think this guide, 10 to 14, is really reasonable. It's a really reasonable number for us to shoot for 10 to 14 meals a day. I mean, I know programs in Burlington that are doing their goal is 15 to 18 in other districts. In the Burlington School District, it's kind of 15 to 18, but they're doing a lot less scratch cooking, and that makes a difference. So if there's a lot less prep work, then that meals per labor hour can go up. We're not, philosophically, not in that place. So we're looking at a lower meals per labor hour that requires more prep time and actual work, but we still think this is reasonable. And it's not like, I want to make sure it's clear that this isn't like a punishment or anything. It's a guide, because of what I showed you in my first slide. We are about education, but we're running a business, and our staff all understand that. Like, they know that also, and that's important to them as well, and they're 100% on board with the idea that they also have to learn how to be as efficient as possible in their jobs. That helps everybody, and it's, so. Is that clear? More questions?
Is it fair to say that with scratch cooking, it may be a slower process, but it's also cheaper to buy the food? It's not prepared already?
Yeah. Not always, because of the labor cost, right?
And economy of scale.
Because the labor costs so much. So there's a balance there. Scratch cooking tends to be more labor intensive and so more costly. But it depends on the item, right? Yeah, and we make those kind of choices all the time. So a lot of times we try to, and my philosophy is to try to stay away from brown box foods. That's what we call them. But for example, one thing you'll see on the menu is a breaded mozzarella stick. It comes out of a box. We are careful about scrutinizing those products. We look for clean labels that don't have lots of, long chemical words in them, and things that are pretty wholesome. There's also a little prepackaged banana bread, right? So those are things we are making some concessions, and I admit they're concessions because they came out of a box. But when those mozzarella sticks were served today in Addison Northeast, and I think Addison Northwest served them too, they were served with local zucchini that was roasted, chopped and roasted, and in some cases local carrots when we could get them, but fresh carrots that were cut from an actual carrot, not baby carrots, and made into carrot sticks. So that's the kind of decisions that we make. So I'm much more interested in having staff spend time preparing vegetables like that and pulling a really wholesome product out of a box that they can serve a nice marinara sauce with. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
But it's everything, it's not a hard and fast kind of thing. Okay, keep going. So we don't make a profit. I guess you probably figured this out already. We basically lose money on every single meal. And we're pretty similar to most companies where it's about a 60-40 split between labor and food. But the total cost of those meals is $3 and $4, and we're only charging $2.85 and $1.85 for them, which is fair when you're talking about little kids in school and families with 3 kids going to school. So this is, again, this is where we get the rub. We can't really charge what it costs. But my little bolt, that's where the rubber hits the road there. Like, that's where if we were in a business, then I would be charging $5.21 for meals. And I'd only be making a 30% profit, which is not very much in the business. But we're not, we're in a school. So we have to figure this out. One of the ways we figure it out is accepting your generous contributions to education and meals. And I kind of want to present it to you this way so you'll understand like what's happening, where is this going? The other way we do it is that we do look for every opportunity, like the supper programs and the vending meals to preschools, that we can contribute to nutrition in other areas of our community and other parts of our school, and boost that a little bit. That's how we supplement this. And I can tell you that you can make it work. We've been successful at doing it in Addison Northeast with a contribution of about started as a 20% contribution in Addison Northeast from our schools, our individual schools contributing 20% to our overall budget. And over the years, we've maintained it. So this is 8 years ago. And we've been able to maintain the dollar amount, and it's now around 17%. So I feel good about that. I feel like that's progress. And maybe we can do even better, but that's what we're working towards. So this is what you get. I have so many recent pictures on my phone. I spend a lot of time taking pictures in schools, but these are pretty recent, beginning of the year. Healthy school meals. So the goal is to access meals all the day. So I told you about all the meals that we're doing. I also wanted to just show you this slide. It doesn't matter that you can't see all the numbers, but I did want you to know that this is the kind of data that I share with our staff on a monthly basis. So at the end of September, I'll be putting together like charts like this that say where participation was last year and where it is this year. And we'll have conversations about why. What are we doing that worked? Because this all goes to, are we making enough meals to make this a semi-profitable or at least a break-even or at least a good business? The other thing we look at is this kind of data. We look at meal participation in all categories. Are the students who qualify for free meals, how many of them are eating lunch? It's not always 100%. In fact, it's rarely 100%, but you wonder why. And we do look at this data on a regular basis, and we have long conversations about why that is. What is it about our food? What are we doing? Are we being nice enough to the kids? Is our serving lines too long? Is there enough, whatever. Lots of conversation. So just so you know, we're doing a lot of that kind of analyzing of our programs on a monthly basis, and that's my job. Like, that's the role that you have a director and assistant directors who are that's our job, is to do all this analysis and try to figure out how can we do the best job we can possibly do at every level, including pleasing the children.
I understand the quality of the meals as understood, but might it be that some kids are not eating the meals even if they're free because they don't like what you're serving?
It might be, yeah. We're trying to figure that out, yeah.
There's no easy way to do that.
There isn't. I mean, one of the things that I've done, and we've done it in Addison Northeast, we'll probably do it this year because we started with new menus, is survey kids. I mean, that's 100% something that we would do. But we wouldn't do it until we serve meals for a good year and they're comfortable and familiar with them.
Part of the problem, though, is reaching your survey to the kids that aren't coming through the line and eating the meals.
Well, we give the survey to everybody in the classroom. So when I've done it before, it goes to the classroom, and it goes home, and they're invited to let us know, and they're designed like very specifically to so that kids can answer the questions with little smiley faces and things like that. So, you're absolutely right. Is there a chance that some kids don't like the food? Yes. it keeps me up at night. Yes, that is a possibility. And we are working really hard to figure that out. Like, and it's not always about getting kids to like kale. Like, that's not my thing. I'm not 100% wanting all kids to love kale. I do want kids to know what it is, and I think if we introduce interesting foods like that and educate kids so at least they know what it is and they're making a choice, then I've done my job. But they're not all gonna like it. Can't even get my husband to like it, actually.
I'll give you a recipe.
Okay, you're on. It'll be the kale challenge. So I am gonna end soon. Local food, I wanted to say that we do have a strong interest in local food, both from the perspective of all of our staff really want to have local food in their kitchens now because it feels like the right thing to do. I mean, there's farms that are abundant with beautiful tomatoes and cucumbers, so you'll see it on our menu. What I don't like and what we will not do is a local food day, because that's a cop-out, in my opinion. I think we need to really embrace local food in the way that we can do it within our budget. So we put aside, or kind of in budgeting land, sort of figure out about 15% of the food budget can go to local food. And that's what I've figured out works. It's what we can afford. It's about as much as we can handle also, because of both local food is wonderful, it's also incredibly challenging from a labor perspective. But this is what we're doing. We're doing all these farms. We also have procurement requirements now, and what we've done is we've identified through the history in Addison Northeast some specific crops that we spend more than $3,000 on. That's our procurement threshold. And for those crops, which are potatoes, carrots, I think sweet potatoes, maybe squash, maybe corn. I don't think it's corn, but it could be squash. Laura does a lot of this. That we then beef is one of them. So anything over that $3,000 threshold, then we have a specific contract with a farmer. We had open bids. We got bids, collected bids, and all of that business. So apples, beef for sure, in that. So this is what we're doing. Lots of fresh stuff coming in. And then there's so much else that our school nutrition programs do and offer. There's the fresh fruit and vegetable program. There's always opportunities for kids to go into kitchens and work with our staff. And there will be more and more of those opportunities going forward. Every school has school gardens. I don't have Lynn sitting back there responsible for some of the most beautiful gardens in schools I've ever seen. So, those are all things that are part of what we want to do and intend to continue to do. Nutrition and food education, it's a big piece of what we're interested in being a part of. And what we do is we reach out to classroom teachers and say, hey, if you have something you want us to work on with your kids, please let us know. We can do an ethnic meal. We've done a bunch of different things in all of our schools. This is just my little success cycle, which just keeps me grounded. So that's it. I know I went over time. I'm sorry.
It's all right, Kathy. Thank you.
Any questions?
No, to you.
You said you had 30 people, 30 employees at
Yeah.
your kickoff meeting. Can you just give us a snapshot of where they reside? Are those, in each individual school? How many of them are Addison Northwest versus Addison
So
Northeast?
good question. It's about 18 staff, I think, 18 or 19 in Addison Northeast, and the rest are Addison Northwest. So there's a manager in every school, and then there's one person. The only school is Addison that has one person in the school, and we're doing that because of numbers. It's a small number of schools, and I know it might seem a lot to you guys to cook for 50 kids, but for people who've been cooking for lots of people for a long time, it's not. And there's ways that we support that. So we're supporting Addison School now, and our effort is to have one person here for all the reasons I just talked to you. But she's fully supported by myself. I've been here quite a bit. And Laura, and Martha, and also the high school's preparing a lot of food to bring down here. So that's kind of an aside. But yeah, there were it's almost evenly split. We have a little more staff in Addison Northeast, but in terms of the size of schools and the number of staff, they're equal in terms of the number of kids in a school and the number of staff.
I have two questions. One, kind of directly related to the unification efforts. You talked about, because we're part of a larger, we get a higher rate on the rebate. We get a rate on the rebate, actually. What have you not been able to kind of integrate that you would like to integrate? Or have you done all the integration that between Northeast and Northwest? And so what are you looking towards doing that you haven't done in that?
Well, I mean, there's a lot. I feel like there's more work to be done in Addison Northwest that we did in Addison Northeast around finances and budgeting, really around building systems so that we can look at our budgets as one unified budget. We haven't, that's very new, and we need to develop systems for reporting, just collecting deposits and putting them in. We did put new point of sale systems in all the schools so that we could be able to print out reports that we look at participation rates in all the schools. So there's a lot of that background financial analysis stuff that's not in place here that will be, in a couple of years. It's not going to be an overnight thing, but already we're working on it. And your new business manager, Elizabeth, is somebody that I worked with before to implement all of that in Addison Northeast. So I'm super excited about that. But that kind of thing takes time. It takes time to, to just get all those ducks in a row so that you get a really good financial picture. And so that's a big piece of what my sights are set on, is having a very clear picture of where every penny in our school nutrition programs is going. We'll get there, maybe sooner than later, yeah.
Sorry, the other question, there's a lot of noise that comes out of Washington, but I'm wondering if you know of, do you hear things in terms of the USDA budget? Are they informing you that things are going to be changing, or that they're really going to be the same?
Yeah.
Do you hear things that we wouldn't be hearing?
Right. Well, I do. There's a national association. It's called School Nutrition Association. We also have a Vermont chapter, of which I am the treasurer. So there's a national entity that keeps an eye on Washington and is very involved in what's going on there. Currently, things are kind of quiet right now. We're nervous, though. I have to tell you that we've been nervous for a while, a little while. Our child nutrition funding is authorized every 5 years. It was up for reauthorization last year, but it's been tabled. This is not the first time. The last time it was tabled for 5 years. So we're kind of used to this, and actually we're much happier that it was tabled because we worry that things will be taken out. There have been some legislation recently to give people the opportunity to have waivers on some of the nutritional requirements that I showed you before. I didn't go into detail, but for example, we have to serve, all of our grain products have to be 50% whole wheat, which is completely reasonable and awesome. They're having a super hard time with that in states that serve tortillas, because a whole wheat tortilla is not that great, especially when it's part of your ethnic life, and a whole wheat tortilla is not
They should be
cutting
made
it.
with corn, shouldn't they?
Right, but not whole wheat. So they're having some real issues, and they're having issues with grits in the South. So there's been legislation to say states can give waivers for those kinds of things. Our state is disallowing any waivers at all. So we're not allowed to get waivers, even if we wanted to.
Like a waiver for Wonder Bread?
Yeah, like a waiver for Wonder Bread, yeah.
I feel like that would go
Something like that,
inevitably.
yeah.
You know?
But right now it's kind of quiet. What we're more worried about is funding for WIC, and that's all part of the Farm Bill, and that's what we're most concerned about, is that they're going to be massive cuts to the WIC program. And they're interrelated, but we're separate, so it's hard. It's really hard. And what they're going to do is they're going to keep funding child nutrition and take the money from WIC. That's what they're going to do. Yeah, and that's the big concern at the moment.
Any other questions for Kathy? Yes. Go ahead, Lori.
Thank you. So I looked at one of the many emails we get from the schools, and there was an email about mealtime.
Yeah.
That is super cool.
Oh, good. I'm glad you said that because right now I feel like it's a little bit of a disaster.
It might be a little difficult
Yeah,
for first timers.
yeah.
I'm just wondering how that's going.
I think overall, I feel like it's going well. I know I can see in the future, because I've gone through this already with Addison Northeast. We started this whole thing with a point of sale system in 6 schools. So I'm familiar with the ups and downs in the first, and I keep reminding myself it's only 8 days. But it's been challenging because of like importing records, and Martha's done just hours and hours of work and working with the company and fixing things. It's not perfect now. You know, there are people who are calling us and saying, where's my balance? And we're finding them. So the good thing about the system is that it's a system and it's all there. Nothing's been lost. But we have had to do quite a bit of work, not extraordinary, but it's happening. I
So
think it's going to be
this is for
fine.
online payments.
It's
Some people
online
might not
payments,
understand
it's kids
what.
punching their little number in and blah, blah, blah. But the benefit is we have information, and once we get all this sorted out, we're gonna have great data, it's gonna be easy. It's really a good way to go, but there's a few bumps in the road. But it is basically awesome. And everyone will think so soon, including me, hopefully. We don't have the same system. We upgraded a system in Addison Northeast, and I chose to have a different one here because there was some familiarity with it at the high school, the one we have here, and it just made sense financially too. And we don't aggregate data across. That's important. We don't aggregate anything across districts, not finances, not number data, nothing. We might compare and compete a little bit, but we don't aggregate, so.
I had another question. So I really like, actually it's a little bit more than another question, but I really liked the mission a whole lot, and I have a thing about missions. I feel the foundation of pretty much anything you build, as far as an institution is concerned.
I
We are
agree.
building an institution.
I agree.
So I was wondering if it's on a website somewhere.
Not yet. Part of the, really bad at advertising thing that I'm gonna get much better at, but yeah, it's gonna, we have a website in Addison Northeast, and I'm trying to merge it into a website for both districts that we could share. But yes, it should be, and I will get it out there. Martha, she's talking. She'll help me. We'll get it out there, because it's important.
Yeah, and then I also thought, okay, there are 2 separate entities, the SD and you guys, but we're very integrated.
Yeah.
I wondered if there was any way our website would incorporate. This is really cool. This is really cool.
Yeah, I think it's cool too. Our staff think it's cool too, right? Do you agree with that? I put her on the spot.
Super excited.
Yeah, it's really good, like the training together and the sharing of recipes, and it's really makes all of our work better. And I mean, even just little workshops on knife skills, and it's gonna be really good. And cycle menus was a big deal for people, having the same menu. Oh my God, they were a little worried. Everybody loves it because we can share, and we know what products you know that somebody's making the same thing. If you run out, it's right there. Or if you forget your recipe, it's just, there's so many benefits. And people are liking the menus a lot to prepare, and the kids are liking it. So, not that there will not be bumps in the road. There will be, guaranteed. Thank you so much for your
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That's great. That brings us to board and committee reports. Superintendent's report, and business manager's report.
So this evening, I'd like to show a video that we created in preparation for convocation. In past convocations, when we are introducing new hires, people are asked to come to the front of the stage in the auditorium, and each of the principals introduces. And sometimes the equipment is working well and you can hear. Other times you might be able to see someone, but it's not really crisp. So this year we decided to do a video.
Really? I'm the new business manager at the central office, and something interesting about me is that I only drink coffee when I'm working.
Hi, I'm Ken Sullivan. I work at the Virginia Union High School. I'm the Director of Buildings and Grounds for the district. And I really enjoy my job.
Hi, I'm Karen Takeda. I am the chef at Virgins High School, and something interesting about me is I really am interested in knowing what everybody loves to eat.
My name is Jamie Bryant. My job title is nutritional assistant at Virgins High School. And one thing, I love to mow the lawn. Lisa Lawrence, child nutrition, Virgins High School. I have 2 children.
My name is Angela Shugart. I'm going to be the receptionist and student services assistant at Virgins Union Elementary School. And I won Best in Show for an apple cake that I entered in field days.
I'm Kayla O'Hara. I'm the new chorus teacher at Virgins Union High School, and I ride motorcycles.
Hi there, my name is Brad Miller. I'll be a student teacher in the math department at Virgins Union High School this coming year. Something you might want to know about me is that I was a ski bum last year in British Columbia.
Hi, my name is Dylan Stoll. I'm a school psychologist in the district here. And something about me is that I've been to 28 states and 5 countries.
Hi, my name is Isaac Kreisman. I'm working as a middle school social studies teacher. And something about me, I have 5 ducks that I keep in my backyard that lay eggs.
My name is Brian Giro. Job title is work at head custodian at Addison Central School. I moved my friends cross country 5 years ago.
My name is Bruce Meter. My job's title is custodian, Ferrisburg Central School. And something about me, I'm a beekeeper.
Hello, my name is Brian Johnson. I will be a student teacher at Virgins High School, teaching biology and earth science. And one thing you don't know about me is my favorite color is green.
Hello, I'm Kate Sansom. I will be teaching 6th grade LA and social studies at Virgins Elementary School. I just moved here from New Jersey, where for the past 23 years I have lived in a haunted house.
I'm Nancy Vanier. I'm going to be the special educator, the grades 4 through 6 at Harrisburg Central School. Something about me, I was an English teacher in the Peace Corps in Thailand for 2 years.
Hi, my name is Gabe Marder. I am the kitchen manager at Addison Central School in Addison, Vermont. I love food, and my nickname is Gabe, which is short for Gabriel. My parents named me after the angel Gabriel, but I think they misspelled it. So I've always had a tricky thing with my name being spelled differently than this.
Hi everybody, I'm Angela Kunkel. I'm the new library media specialist at the high school. Something about me, I recently moved from Albuquerque, New Mexico back to Vermont, and I am going to share an embarrassing story that when I moved to New Mexico 9 years ago, I had no idea roadrunners were real. I only thought they existed in Looney Tunes. I was very surprised to see one in real life. So there's something odd about me.
All right, my name is Laura Grangepani. I will be teaching social studies on Team Phoenix at Virgins Middle School. Something about me is I ran my first marathon this past May.
I'm Billy Corbett. I'm teaching high school history at Virgins Union High School next year. And I just completed with 5 teammates the 100 on 100, which is a running race from Stowe down to Okemo.
Hi, my name is Dana Bitt, and I will be teaching 2nd grade math and social studies at Virgins Union Elementary School. Something about me is that I really like to travel, and my favorite places that I've traveled so far are Siberia and Tobago.
Hi, my name is Megan Pullis. I am going to be the new 4th grade teacher at Virgins Elementary School. And I love pugs, and I got engaged this summer.
Hi, my name is Sarah McNell. I am a para-educator at Addison Central School in the literacy department. And something surprising about me is that my husband and I own one of the original Sears and Roebuck catalog houses.
Hi, my name is Katie Staley. I'll
the student teacher of English at Virgins Union High School, and I love to be outside.
My name is Derek Spear, and I'm going to be student teaching English at Virgins Union High School, and I'm a lifelong Oakland Raiders fan. I think this is going to be our year.
So you can see the energy in some of the new people that we've hired. It's really great to bring different backgrounds to the classroom and their different experiences, and we're really excited about this new year of hires. And so before I answer any questions you might have about the superintendent's incidental report, I did want to mention, I wanted to address a comment that was made earlier about having an interaction with the staff here at Addison Central School. When we realized that we would have some openings in Virgins Elementary School, there were actually going to be 3 openings, I did have a conversation with staff in Addison and Ferrisburg Central School and encouraged people who might want to change in their teaching assignments to apply for one of those positions. It was an internal posting. I think change is good. It gives people an opportunity to do things in a different way with a new team. This had nothing to do with any future of our schools. It was really a challenge or an opportunity that I was offering to some of our internal folks before we decided to post the position. So I just wanted to make that clarification.
Oh, because the way I heard it, you were just going to close down the school and weren't even going to talk to us about it.
Thank you.
That is not the case.
Not the case.
That was a sarcastic comment, right, Finn? Yeah.
No, I did hear that, but I didn't believe it, so I'm glad to hear it from Joanne.
Thank you, Joanne. So I want to say, in regards to the superintendent's report, did you have anything else that you wanted to point out from that? Okay. In regards to the superintendent's report, that Diana and I attended the convocation, and it was really awesome. And I think you all got goodie bags tonight that were solicited for donations that every teacher got, which are really nice little bags to carry your stuff in. So that was nice, and it just was a really fun day, and day full of health and wellness. And at the end of the day, there were lots and lots of positive comments. But we loved that video, and the recognition of our Teachers of the Year, Amy Foley and Sue O'Daniel, was pretty special. So I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that, Diana.
No, I never had an in-service like that when I worked in the district, so I was jealous.
It'll be hard to uphold that standard next year, I'll tell you that.
I think it just built really great energy for the start of the year, Joanne.
And a lot of work went into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a shout out to Joanne and her staff that really pulled that together, because it sounded like it was an amazing day. So, good start.
Cool. So did anyone have any questions for Joanne on the items that were on her report? Yes, Lori.
On the staff updates, so we have a retirement in the guidance office?
Yes.
And I'm wondering if that sounds like an opportunity.
It is.
Yeah, good. That's great. Because that's like such a important part of kids for high school. And I know that my kids had some trouble in that particular, getting through that. Not all of them, but yeah. So I was just wondering, what are you thinking? Do you have something in mind, or are you just going to hire a new person?
No, we're not. Every time there's an opportunity, we're going to treat it as an opportunity to do things in a different way. Right. So we have not made any formal final decisions, but what we are, Stephanie and I are considering at this point is the creation of a director of guidance position. And this position would not only be able to increase services to our students, but we would be able to expand what it is that we provide. Someone who would be on top of our assessment system, someone who could ensure good supervision and evaluation of job-alike people in the department. It would operate more as a student services director, and we would be able to accomplish some goals that we have not been able to accomplish before. So we're examining the budget right now and looking for some new hire savings to create that position, and the guidance department tomorrow will be going on a retreat to identify for Stephanie what they see as their department needs. And so we are planning to roll out at least an initial plan in the next couple of weeks, and we'll keep you posted.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
Joanne, would you be able to share with us the goals that you just mentioned down the road? Like where you're trying to set your
Yeah,
sights?
I'd really like to expand opportunities for our kids to interact with international students. We have some exchanges now, but there are more opportunities out there, and I see that having someone dedicated to doing that work could really advance and allow us to move in that direction. We also wanted to really focus on career and college readiness for our students. And so we want to look at what we're doing now and how we might be able to make some improvements. I mean, I always think there's ways to improve there. I've heard from parents recently that there's a lot of support going on around students that want to move on to post-secondary education, but sometimes students just need support about life. And spending more time with our kids planning and thinking about their future rather than a particular place, but it's really more from a global aspect.
Yeah. One thing to maybe think about is it's a 4-year plan, the minute they get there in high school instead of like the senior year.
Christine, that's interesting that you said that because I think we're looking more at a 6-year plan.
Yeah,
there's a lot we can be doing with middle schoolers.
Great.
To be thinking about career and interests and setting goals. So that really is part of the personalized learning approach. And once Stephanie and I put together the meat of this plan, we will bring it back to the board perhaps next month. Right now, we're just floating some ideas around.
Great, thank you.
Good. If I may?
Yes, go ahead.
So, I see the new hires, thank you. We have 40-plus years of experience, but his license is expired?
Yes. So, Mr. Fields retired officially in 2010, but unofficially, he's been working in several schools since that time. And most recently, he was the driver's ed teacher at Otter Valley High School. So he came to us as interested in the health position. It was advertised as health and PE. But we were able to get him to agree to teaching our health classes, and I will have to apply for a provisional license for him because he allowed his licenses to lapse.
Okay, so you're taking care of that?
That's my responsibility.
You're meeting your staff and you. And then the other one is Erin Ackerman, 1 year's experience, but is that a bachelor's with 15 years experience? Is that what that means? Bachelor's plus 15?
15 credits.
Credits.
15 credits. Okay, not years. Thank you. That's what I wanted to know.
But has she been out of teaching for a while? Is that why there's no license?
She has, no, that's not why there was no license when she, let me see what I can share with you publicly. She did not complete her license application because at the time of graduation, she was beginning a family. And so she decided to stay home for a while. Most recently, she did work in a Catholic school, which does not require a license. And she has a lot of experience as a librarian. If she got a license, it would likely be in English language arts at the middle level. But because she has a degree, we can get an emergency license for her to do the library media work, and we're doing that for 1 year only.
And is the anticipation that she will get a regular license after that?
If she can, this is a 1-year position.
Okay.
If she gets the license, she is going to be invited to apply for the position.
Other questions?
Are you still on?
Go ahead, Diane.
No, I was going on to the hiring protocol. If you got something else, go ahead.
Well, mine's about board development, so is that first?
Okay.
I'm just curious to know if anyone else is planning to go to the September 25th VSBA meeting. Apparently, I signed up for it. I don't remember signing up for it.
I know, I saw you on the list and I was like, phew.
But I would go to it, but I have a little trouble driving at night on Route 7, so if anyone else is going, I would be willing to carpool and I'll go, but if no one else goes, then I probably won't go either.
Okay. We can talk. I may be able to go.
Okay, and I talked to you.
What is
anyone
it?
else?
I'm just gonna try and track it down. I can't.
You can't, okay.
Is there anyone else interested?
I can't do it. Sorry. I'm interested.
And Tom is actually going to take the Lake Maury conference for us on the 19th of October, the annual VHI Visbit
But, yeah, I'm going to the business
The
meeting.
business
I'm not
meeting,
going to
yes.
the conference because I have to teach on.
The conference is fabulous.
I would love to go to the conference, but
I'd like to go to the conference.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean,
great.
more than
So
one of us can go, right?
They can, you need to
I'll
be
just each
registered.
tell you, you know?
Yeah, Tom was gonna go because we need a representative there to vote on our board's behalf.
so if you
Oh,
wanted to
so if
go
we're
vote
already
for me,
going, you would,
I was gonna drive to vote and then come home.
oh.
I can't go to the conference, but I can go to the business meeting.
Vote?
Right.
Yeah, I could vote.
So if
Well,
somebody's
I-
going to the conference and would like to be the board's representative to vote.
Do you want to go?
Well, we both could go.
Okay, we both go.
Okay, we get one vote, so we can discuss
Oh,
how
we
you
could go to
guys
the
will.
meeting.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah.
Do rock, paper.
Whatever.
You can both attend the meeting, the board gets one vote.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. All right.
Cool.
Save me
Thank you
5
very
hours.
much. Right, all right. Okay, that was your question, Diana? Yeah. Or do you want to? Yes. Can I ask one about that before you go in there?
Yeah.
So the hiring process or protocol was attached. Joanne, when was that developed or updated? There's no date on the page.
It was updated in the last couple of weeks, Gloria,
Yeah,
before school started?
yeah, oh, yeah, definitely, yeah.
Okay. All right.
This summer Yeah. sometime,
August 1st.
August 1st.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Maybe that wouldn't be a bad idea to have that in there.
I've been
On the-
doing pretty good at putting
You
those
have
dates
been.
on there.
You
You
have
have
been.
been, I know. That's why I was
Really have
surprised there
been.
wasn't one.
Such a great idea. There you go.
Christina?
So I did have a question about the hiring protocol. I don't see any mention in there about forming committees, as like hiring committees, so I was just wondering, or unless I missed it, but is that part of the process of a hiring protocol?
It is part of the process, and, you know, this is globally the steps that we take and that we expect of different people from the different positions. I fully expect that this is a work in progress. The identification of a committee is an important one. I do have a document that describes how I would like the committee to operate within the context of hiring a principal. I would include that here, but it was a separate document that I handed out to the boards when we hired both the Ferrisburg principal and the Addison Central principal. We have not included it here, doesn't mean that it can't be, but it was contained in a separate communication.
Are there also a document related to hiring committees for teachers?
I would use in terms of the
Same.
identification of a committee, I think it's important to have a diverse committee.
Yep.
We have representation from students, depending on the developmental level of where the hire is coming from parents, and certainly a variety of staff, depending on the position that we're hiring.
And a committee is used almost in every instance, or?
A committee is always used when we hire. Now, in the summertime, and we had some last-minute
Right.
resignations, we may have 3 people as opposed to 5 or 6.
Okay.
We try to keep the committees to about that number, 5 to maybe 7, because it gets too large after that. And like I said, and I try to get the diversity of the representation around the table, because we want to hear different points of view.
Okay. Thank you.
Did you have additional questions? Go ahead.
Just as an aside, it says, well, at the completion of the hiring process, the administrator will contact those interviewed and non-hired applicants. So that's a rejection. That's a rejection. Okay. And before that, lots of people send their resumes in. Do they get a response? There's a part of the School Spring system that allows you to send them an email to say, thank you for your interest, but you were not chosen for this round. And is that the principal's responsibility as well? No, that's something that Gloria does. Okay. And then I'm a little confused as to how the new employee could be responsible for getting an appointment with the human resources person. That seems a little backwards. So when we hire someone, we make a verbal offer. A letter goes out from me congratulating them and stating that in order for them to be prepared for their first day of work, that they have to call Z, make an appointment, and go through their benefits and the contract. And that's a very rigorous process. It takes about 2 hours?
No, a little over an hour.
A little over an hour. But it's on the new employee, not on Z.
because reaching out to people can be a very time-consuming thing, so she receives the phone call in order to make the
It's like a test, like the new employee has to be able to
Are they
figure out
actually get on the phone and?
how to call.
Okay.
or email.
Well, so,
Right.
that might get confusing. Maybe it should just be one.
And I did have some questions about the business managers thing.
Yes, I was gonna go there next.
Okay.
Yeah, I also didn't notice on the protocol that, the licensed employees need to be approved by the board before the contract is.
Sorry, what point?
The
Board approval.
board approvals. Yep, for licensed, positions is a requirement by law, so.
We can add that.
Yes, so part of the superintendent's report also was the financials. So Lori has some questions about that.
Anybody else can go first if I don't have to. Okay? Okay. So on the page 2, the annual statistics report was due on 8/16 this year due to a typo from the Agency of Ed?
Yep.
What, they gave you the wrong due date?
Let me see where you are.
So Elizabeth had an emergency. She's not obviously here tonight.
Yes, that's what it,
That's what it says.
It is,
Yeah.
well, not quite. It just says it was a typo. I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't, I guess I just wanted to express my incredulity that caused trouble.
Duly noted.
Yeah.
That's a mouthful.
Thank you, I think. And then, final grant, this is the third paragraph down. They're usually due on the 31st, but in this case, they're due on the 29th. It sounds like we don't have yet a good calendar and schedule of deadlines. Is she working on that?
We have a good calendar and schedule for deadlines. Sometimes looking for information to finalize these reports has been a scavenger hunt. So we expect to pick it up and to be on schedule, but this summer, it truly has been a, yes.
Okay.
She just barely started.
But it's my job to ask, George.
Oh, I understand that, but
So the financial software,
Yes.
is that in the budget?
That is in the, what we hope to address is that is partially in the transition grant. And if we get to a point where the financial software package is beyond what we can handle in the budget, we will look into spreading the cost out over multiple years rather than paying the full amount up front.
And how much do we have left in the transition grant?
That's a very good question. I don't have the answer for that at the moment, but I can get it.
Okay.
Joanne, for financial software like that, is there usually a significant vendor fee that goes along with it that becomes an ongoing cost?
Depending on what company you're working, but there is a startup cost, Tom, and that will just have to
So the
come.
startup cost would be the transition grant, and then everything else would have to become part of the hard.
There is an annual cost that will be part of the budget going forward, and that would be less than obviously the startup.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm sorry.
I just wondered if the capital improvement funds agrees, you're happy, or you're all right. VUAS.
I believe that, yes.
Happy, no, accurate,
Well,
yes.
accurate. I'm happy with the accuracy of it.
Oh, unhappy with the fact that
Zero.
it was a 0.
We have a paved parking lot
Woo-hoo! So we spent Ferrisburg's capital fund, is that why there's a
on the
0
parking
there?
lot, I believe, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yep. So I had a couple questions on the format of the report, but with Elizabeth not here, maybe I will just.
The Finance Committee worked on that, and
Oh.
Lori, correct me if I'm wrong, but I understand that the monthly financials will have 3 components, and John, you're on that committee as well. A revenue report that shows the adopted budget, actual amounts received, anticipated amounts, and the current variance in the budget.
Okay.
The second component is an expense report in summary format by function and department code, which includes the adopted budget, the amendments or transfers to the budget internally, the revised budget, result of those transfers, and actual expenses year-to-date, current encumbrances, and the amount remaining in the budget.
So that's the portion that we received this month, correct?
Yes.
The expense part, yeah.
So,
Third component?
Oh, I'm sorry.
The third component will be a balance sheet for the funds that are included in the approved and voted budget. This month, you're only receiving, as you just identified, the expenditures portion of the reports due to the consolidation transition.
Okay. So I was curious, in the expenditure report, why are there codes being repeated multiple times?
I can't answer that.
Okay.
I will get an answer and email the board.
Like, oh gosh, it's tiny on here. I don't know, if you go down, if you just look at the codes and the categories, there's some that recur, I think, 3 different times. So,
Really? 'Cause they're not supposed to, so I'm a little
Well, I-
surprised.
okay.
I'm not,
2150
it
does.
just could be because I'm not looking.
2150 certainly does, 2160.
Are the numbers the same?
Yep.
Can you
Yeah,
say?
I mean, we don't need it, well, I don't know if we need to
Give an
look
example.
in
7-Eleven.
detail, but, there are codes and categories that repeat
There's
multiple
a
times.
2150 on
2711,
page
yeah.
1 and 2150 on
Yeah,
page
2711 is on page 2 and also on page 3.
So I just didn't,
Different schools, so you're not seeing
there's a
all the
third.
numbers.
uh-huh,
If you see the whole function and object code at the very end, there's 001, 002, 004, and 005. So 001's Addison Central, 002
Okay.
would be Ferrisburg.
okay,
Those are
so
the-
is
a
that
breakdown.
the way that the committee was hoping to get it, broken out by school?
I suspect there will be
Okay.
se-
Okay, all right.
changes as
So
time goes on.
That was just one thing, and
thank
the
you.
other question I had was, you know, the general fund is on here just as one rather large item. And I guess I just wanted to bring that to the
Yeah.
committee's
Okay,
attention.
thank you.
So, that was all. All right, anyone else have anything for Joanne's report or the financial report? Laura, you good on that?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, thank you.
All right, great, thank you. All right, principals' reports. Any questions or comments for the principals? They are here.
They're here. I love reading the principals' reports. And I know I said this at another meeting. I feel though it's like looking at apples and oranges because everyone reports in a different way. And I don't want to make everyone be the same or carbon copies of each other, but it's just helpful for me if we're talking about unification and equity and all of that. I would love if there could be a format that maybe the principals could work on it, or,
Maybe we should figure out what we want to know, and we could give that a suggestion to them.
The same content ought to be in every one. If there's something that's extra in a school, then it can be added. But there should be a basic content format.
I agree with you.
Wonder what that would look like.
Okay. So maybe this is something we can explore at our retreat and think in more depth about what we really would like to know.
No.
We want,
this is the board's
the
space.
comment was that there's a desire for unity of content from the,
They did in your
in
report.
the principal's reports, but we're not quite sure yet what we want that to be so that we can have a conversation with you about these, though we like your reports a lot.
We're very happy with getting all of the information that you're providing to us.
No criticism on anyone, it's just hard to kind of think about all 4 schools when every report is reporting different stuff.
Would it be helpful if there were, in talking about a format, if the categories were the same?
I think
Yes.
it's really the
Yes, that's
category.
exactly what I mean.
That is
Yeah,
something
yeah.
we can correct. Let's just take it off your plate. We'll figure that out for next month.
Okay, great.
We
That's
just
even-
can't hear you when you're not facing us.
Right.
Some of the comments seem meant for our ears, even though we're not answering. I just wanted to be clear that if you wanted us to hear it,
We gotta talk to you.
then say it loud.
Right.
I have a question.
Yes.
For Stephanie, you say, you mentioned off-campus programs, PHCC, CVA, and DO. I don't know what you're referring to. I'm
Yeah,
just,
it's Patricia Hannaford Career Center.
Champlain Valley Agency
And what's the other one?
CVA.
Champlain Valley Academy.
Academy.
Okay, thank you.
that diversified occupations?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's still around.
I was wondering about the paving. How's it going?
I couldn't hear you.
The paving.
We are ready to use the new
format tomorrow.
Oh, good.
Yes, they seeded and hayed everything today. There's a couple final touches, but we can still go ahead and use it. Very excited.
So they ended up putting in a light?
That's one of the final touches that's not in yet. So there will be a light, yes.
A crossing light?
A crossing light, yes. One of the concerns of the Ferrisburg board last year was that there is a crosswalk, it's only in the bus area, but they wanted something that would ensure safety, and that was what the board and the engineer agreed upon.
Great, cool. So also in the Ferrisburg report, it talked about the, oh shoot, where did it go? Technology, the Alpine Achievement Data Management System. Is that something specific to Ferrisburg, or is that something that's?
All school
Okay.
districts are using that.
Okay.
That's
Great. And that's new
This year.
this year?
It replaces a program called Inform.
Ah, okay. And what, it's just an update, or?
It's,
we're looking for
it has
different
better,
data?
it has better capacity. It speaks to our other systems where the other one was very cumbersome, and I think it was going out of business.
Usually. Okay, cool, thank you. All right, anything else on those?
Sorry, I know
I have just sort of a thought.
A thought.
Well, we're going to this consolidation thing, right? We are this consolidation thing. But we have individual schools, we have individual principals, and we also have individual community groups, PTOs, parent groups, right? There's one at the high school, and there's one at all three of the elementary schools. I wondered if it would be not a bad idea for the board to once a year hear from those folks. Are there any concerns? Do you guys, are you interested?
The PTO folks? Is that what
Yeah.
you're saying?
I don't know. Just throwing it out. Think about it.
They don't
I mean,
come-
maybe it could come through the principals, I don't know.
It might be nice to know what they're working on, and what parent groups are trying to, facilitate or.
I think they all welcome community members to
I
come.
mean,
to
like if I
meetings.
show up, that'd be a good thing, instead of doing it at the board level.
Oh, I mean.
If they don't
it's just
come
another
here, then
option.
we have to go over there, probably,
Yes,
the
it's
community
the first
engagement
one
committee.
tomorrow night. Maybe a city council meeting, but
Excellent.
And Matt, your paving is good too? Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, cool.
Okay, perfect. So we have a student report. We have a student here. Hello and welcome, and thank you very much for being here.
Thank you. So before I progress with my student report, hi, Ms. Wazell.
Hi.
Sorry. So before I progress with the student report, I'd like to formally introduce myself to the new consolidated board. My name is Mason Charlebois. I am a current senior at Regents Union High School, and I would also like to formally appreciate the board for allowing me this opportunity for the second year in a row to serve the board. So thank you all very much. Really appreciate it.
Are very welcome.
Thank you.
We're happy to have you.
I'm going to start off by stating something that's not in the agenda, but recently, this past summer, Boys State participants had an amazing opportunity. I was one of them. We got to learn about local and national politics, and even on the international scale, and I think it actually really helped me get a better understanding of what this board is right here. So it's really awesome to learn that. Again, school year is officially underway now. And what does that mean for seniors? Stress. Lots of stuff going on. That means a lot of college applications, whether we're using something in the classroom for seniors called the Common Application, which is, I think, been administered throughout the district and throughout other locations as well. On September 13th, Picture Day is available to all students. So I'm excited to dress up that day. Open house, September 20th from 6 to 8 p.m.
Sorry, you changed that today. You probably didn't learn.
No, I didn't.
It's actually going to be the following week. For the high school, it's September 28th.
28th, all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. So September 28th from 6 to 8 p.m., showcasing students' abilities in the class and really being able to talk about what they've done in the class and what transferable abilities they might be able to take out of the class. Class elections are arriving shortly, I think the week before homecoming or shortly before homecoming, so that class officers will be available to help the class in any way whatsoever. For the musical this year, I believe it is 42nd Street. And they are holding annual practices for that. I applaud anyone going into the musical. I would not be able to sing in front of 300 to 400 people. Again, for the seniors, this will be a very chaotic year. College preparatory, not predatory, has already begun.
I was wondering about that.
Predatory was nice.
Yeah. So like various meetings with guidance are already being initiated. Senior picture deadlines, I believe, I got in contact with the yearbook committee, and they would like the pictures for all seniors by the end of October, around October 26th. Senior privileges are still to be determined, so as soon as the class elections are concluded, then that should be initiated very soon. Again, application process is underway. Many students have a list of colleges that they have already begun applying for. Many students have started visiting colleges. Most have already done that this past summer, but there are many people who have already started. Homecoming. Now that's something that's very special to the Virgins community and communities all around Vermont. Various classes get different topics, and based on those topics, they create a float and they march down the main street of Virgins. And it's really awesome to see Virgins pride really shine. And then I think one of the most important events coming up very shortly, next Thursday, is Peace One Day, September 21st. It's a really unique event in which for half the day, from 12:30 to 2:30 p.m., the Virgins Peace One Day Committee will be hosting an event specifying the importance of peace in the near future. I myself will be delivering a speech, and various other people will also be speaking at that event. And that's the student report, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Clarifying question about is the high school open house day also going to be the same day as all the elementary schools?
No.
The elementary is the day before, the 27th.
So the elementary school open house is on the 27th, and high school will be on the 28th?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
George?
Okay.
Uh-oh.
It's okay, we're gonna switch that. I'm gonna go back to the high school.
George, did you have a question?
Yeah, actually, a question, are you a former or current class officer? Is that correct?
I used to be a class officer for sophomore year, and I decided to take a year off. This year I am running for class president. Yeah.
Awesome.
Good luck. When's homecoming? The date?
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna ask.
I'm not exactly sure.
That's why it's not there.
That's why it's not there.
So it hasn't been
Do you know
decided.
when homecoming is?
Homecoming date?
October 6th, the week of, first week of October.
The 6th?
First weekend, right? First Friday, Saturday?
October 6th. Mason, are they still doing pies on Peace One Day, or pie donations?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
So that's something that I think everybody looks forward to, as well as
Definitely.
Jerry's will be there serving pints of ice cream.
Did I see that the time's been changed from previous years?
Previous years it's been held in the morning, but this year, because of various schedule conflicts with students having games after school, soccer games, sports activities, we decided to move it to the afternoon so that it'll give more kind of leeway for parents and then other people from other communities to be able to come.
All right, good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, oh, that's back to me, all right. I don't have much of any report, and I'm hoping that we're gonna fly through the rest of these committee reports as well tonight. But I did just wanna say that if any of the committees have any dates that they want put, or goals that they want put on the work plan for the board, to send those along to me or to
Me.
Joanne.
Yeah, I can do that.
And we can get those on there. So if there's, something that the committee's doing 4 times a year and you want to put that on there, or goals or something like that, that would be great, so that everybody can be on the same page. Yes?
Sue, I did want to mention that it's important for the board to look at that work plan, because it gets updated regularly. And recently, we just placed the policies that need annual reporting out to the board on that work plan. Most of them, with the exception of 2, are up. We still have some internal discussions about 2 of them. And I know that John's also been putting some on in terms of the future work of the policy committee. So because it's in a Google Doc, I won't automatically email you. Just know that it will be updated so you can familiarize yourself.
Is it a link on the website?
It's just a shared document that was shared.
So it should be in our drive.
Google Docs.
It's in your drive.
Yep. What's the name of it?
Annual work plan.
Annual work plan, okay.
2017-18.
Okay.
FY18.
FY18, thank you.
Right.
Okay, so yeah, in respect of the time, I want to get through the board committee reports, but if we can try and keep them informative but brief, that would be great. So, committee and community engagement.
So, before we take a look at this, Catherine Wyckoff, who's one of our student members, rolled out the vision statement at convocation. It was really cool. I just love that she did that. We are going to be rolling it out, the committee is going to be rolling it out to the schools at their before the open houses, so at 5:30. And right now, it's just Travis and Scott Grant and Addison. If there is a board member who would like to be here at 5:30 for that, I think it would be really nice to support them in that, but we don't have enough board committee members to sprinkle around.
You're talking about open house?
Open house.
Here in Addison?
Yeah.
I'll do it.
Okay, you got Lori. Okay, great, thanks. Okay, Finn.
So I've passed around a copy of the almost final draft of what we will be posting at schools during the open houses, so people can see what the vision statement is. There'll be some small changes to legibility. They're printed out. This is why print proofs are important. It's a little hard to read some of the text with the color bubbles, so I'll fix that. In addition to this, there's going to be some sort of paper or something people can write on with a short paragraph explaining the difference between a vision and a mission, and explaining our commitment to allowing schools to work towards this unified vision in using the missions that they find culturally appropriate to their school. So we're going to be hearing from them on this sheet of paper that they can write feedback on. People who come through these open houses, parents, children, that sort of thing. We'll be hearing from them how they think that they would like to move in this direction. And we're going to then take all that information and do more work. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Good?
Thanks.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. This looks good. Like it. Policy, John?
We haven't met, and we will meet. We'll find a time to meet after this, hopefully.
Okay, good, thank you. Facilities?
Facilities, there are 2 things that I want to share. One, last Friday, we met with EEI, the energy performance contract people. They gave us a preliminary presentation. We're going to meet this coming week to talk about that and probably meet again. I think this is going to be an iterative process. The other thing that I wanted to report was about the high school steps. The back entrance. The high school board last year had voted, had authorized some of the use of some of the high school board's funds to repair those steps and perhaps do a new entrance. An RFP was put out, and the proposals came back about twice as much as we had expected, and so there is currently a plan. We thought you know, the original estimate was that there would be somewhere around $75,000, and they came back at about 200. So we're not moving forward in the way that we were originally moving forward. That is being talked about by Ken and Stephanie and Joanne, and then they'll come back and report to us either in October or November. I don't remember which we talked about. But so there's nothing for the board to do right now because the money has already been authorized. It was authorized by the high school board last spring, but we're not going to move forward in the way that we had originally determined. Yes.
But that has to be taken care of sooner rather than later. That step problem.
It's possible it might not happen this year, depending
But
on.
it's a serious safety hazard.
We are aware of that. And by we, I mean the people who are actually running the facilities are aware of that.
So it sounds like they're doing everything that can be done at this point.
Yes.
Sounds like the people making the bids might be aware of that as well.
Perhaps.
George?
I don't know if you heard, Jeff Glassberg was here earlier.
Yes, yes, I
And
did.
volunteered to be on the facility committee.
Yeah.
And I think we should take him up on his offer.
The more help, the better. Right? Okay, great. Was that all?
That was all. Sorry.
Finance?
Weren't we, oh, that's under action items.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Finance committee, any update or?
We met, and it was very productive. We looked at piles of documents and talked about what each particular expenditure should have, what signatures it should have. It should have a PO, it should have a purchase requisition, et cetera. In preparation for the next review, which will be October, what John's going to do, we're gonna come up with a step-by-step process for you to follow. And I'm meeting with Elizabeth on Thursday to talk about what we're going to do about payroll, because the board has never, ever, 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 ever done anything about authorizing payroll. We've only ever done
The bills.
bills and director's orders. We've never looked at payroll, never okayed it. And I don't know why the auditors didn't tell us that that was a problem, but I think it's a good idea to look at it. And so we talked about that as well. What kind of things we might, one of the things we're thinking about is tracing the compensation back to the contract.
Right.
And then timesheets, et cetera. So we're in the process.
Cool, thank
Thanks.
you. Great. All right, Superintendent's Evaluation Committee. I can give an update there. We met and sort of refined the rubric that this whole board looked at last month. And it will go out in survey format. These are questions for evaluation for the 16-17 year. It's going to go out this week, maybe even as soon as tomorrow. If you are a committee member, please make sure you try that link and get me your comments if you have any by tomorrow. I know I got yours, Mark. So but it will go out to this whole board and be due back in probably about a week. So be looking for that in your email, please. It's a quick survey. How long did it take?
10 minutes.
10 minutes.
Yeah, I did it too, about 10 minutes.
So we are looking for everybody to make sure that they fill that out. Once those are done, we have 2 more meetings scheduled. The committee's going to meet on September 27th and again on October 9th prior to the full board meeting, where we'll review all those results, discuss some sort of process for having recurrent check-ins throughout the year, complete a summative report of the 16-17 evaluation, and put our heads together on some proposed goals for 17-18, which will also include some student achievement goals. At the October 9th board meeting, the goal is that we will come with a summative report for the 16-17 process, a job description for board approval, a process for checking in on those 17-18 goals, the proposed goals for 17-18 for board discussion and approval, and ideas on how to incorporate other stakeholders in this process as we move forward.
So
Did I capture that all?
Joanne, though, will also fill out the rubric, is that correct?
Yes, as yep.
And my suggestion, which didn't come up at our last meeting, was to ask Joanne if she would maybe do a narrative along with that, because I think that will tell us a lot more than just seeing your rubric.
Yes.
Is that okay with
Sure,
you?
yep.
Yeah. Did I forget anything from the meeting?
The next meeting's on the 27th.
September 27th, 4 to 6. Yes. Everybody understand that now? We got that? Cool. So Christina.
Yes.
Hannaford, Career Center.
All right, let's see. So I attended their board retreat on August 23rd. It was a 4-hour retreat facilitated by Harry Franks, I think is his name, a former VSBA person. The 4 areas that they had targeted to talk about, and it was continuation of work they'd done previously as a board. They covered board roles, responsibilities, and relationships. They discussed are trying to come up with their superintendent evaluation process as well. Part of the day was spent talking about student learning opportunities and community outreach and the development of a community engagement committee. I got called to an emergency executive session last Thursday and attended that, and then the next board meeting is this coming Wednesday, which I will be attending. And their open house is September 14th, 6 to 8 p.m., which unfortunately I have a conflict. But I'm prior to the Wednesday's board meeting, I'm going an hour early, and this new superintendent is going to give me a tour of the facilities with the chair of the board. So I'll have more to talk about next time.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome.
That's a lot.
Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Does anyone have any other reports, any other board reports? Okey doke, moving right along. We need to go into executive session, so I will be inviting Joanne, executive session for a personnel matter, so if someone would like to make a motion.
I move that we go into executive session to deal with the personnel matter and that we invite the superintendent to join us.
Second the motion.
Do we want to move, or do we want?
So, well, we can't really, because we have a camera, so I was hoping we would use.
And Finn seconded. We agreed.
All in favor?
Unanimously. Okay, action items. So, would like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes of August 14th, 2017, and the special meeting minutes which followed our regular board meeting.
So moved. Okay. Second.
Tom moved, Lori seconded. Any comments or issues around any of those minutes? They looked fabulous. Okay. Thank you. So all in favor of approving those minutes as they stand?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Thank you very much, Glory. Okay, approval of bills and director's orders.
I'll make a motion to approve bills and director's orders in the amount of $445,054.33. That's 445,054.33.
I'll second that.
Okay, any information we need to know or be aware of?
So we spent quite a bit of time going through the idea of creating a system. We did not actually get down into the detail of any of this stuff. I feel like I'm happy with that. If you guys want to look at these, you're welcome to, but I feel like we're on the right path. We can't do everything in the first month. So anyway,
Does anybody have any questions? All right, so all in favor of approving that amount in bills and director's orders, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Brings us to a motion to ratify the Addison Northwest Teacher Association contract.
Woo-hoo!
I move that we do.
Second.
Excellent.
Second, please.
Excellent.
Quadruple!
So we did send out on Friday, hopefully everyone got a sort of a summary of the major changes, and where we ended up in the settlement. Does anyone have any questions around that or comments? Nothing?
Well done, guys.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, really? You guys are amazing.
No questions.
Thank you.
Great. I guess we will just go ahead and vote then. All in favor of ratifying the contract, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So glad it's for 2 years, too. Yeah. Yes, it is a 2-year contract.
You get a break.
A little bit of a break. That's another legislation thing.
Oh, jeez.
All right, Joanne had a list of new employees in her superintendent's report that we briefly discussed earlier. I'd like to take a motion to authorize the superintendent to offer contracts to those.
I so move.
Second.
Any more conversation? We kind of already went through those. All right, all in favor of issuing those contracts, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Perfect. And we have approval of a committee charge for the facility committee. I'm going to preface this by saying, especially given the time here, that I'd like us either to approve the charge as it's presented or send it back to committee and not try to edit it here on the fly, please. So, would like to take a motion?
I move.
Did we get a picture of this? Is this the facilities committee meeting?
This is the
Facilities committee, I don't think we did, so
He'll read
after
it
we
to
get
us
the
now.
motion, could I read the changes that we took? And if you guys don't want to take that, that's fine, but they were fairly straightforward
Yeah,
changes,
we
so.
went, we
This was
kind,
in one of the emails, right?
He's gonna read it to us in a minute,
yeah,
so
we sort of belabored it last month.
I move that we move forward.
Do you need a second?
Second.
Second.
All right,
So, as it currently reads, 3 things. 1, assist the administration in developing sustainable, near and long-term capital and operational maintenance plans and budgets. 2, advocate to the board and the community for support of those plans. 3, serve as an advisory committee for planning and implementing facilities maintenance and improvement priorities on a current basis. Now, there were 2 changes that were made. One was we took sustainable and we put it, it was kind of sustainable maintenance plans. We put sustainable and put it before near and long-term capital. That was what Finn was asking us to do last time. And the other thing was that we changed sounding board to advisory committee. Which was the other issue that was raised. I apologize for it not being sent out. I should have sent it to Glory, but so those were the changes that were made.
does anyone have any questions, or is everyone okay with voting on this at this point? With the verbal?
Yes.
I have a question. It's not related to the charge, but it is related to the facilities committee. I don't think it'll be
Let's
very
talk about the
quick
charge
or
right
very
now.
long, but yep, that's
Thank
fine.
you. Okay, so is everyone good to vote?
Yep.
All right, all in favor of accepting that charge for the facility committee, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, you have a charge.
Tom, will you send it to me?
And now Tom will send it.
It's in the minutes that Christina
Okay.
sent to you.
Okay.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's why I didn't, because it's in a Google Doc that's available.
But
I
now-
just want to ask, and you don't have to answer, but I want to ask and state that as we're going through this process and talking about the heating system for this high school, sustainability is really important, and I'm just hoping that's part of the discussion as well.
It is,
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
most definitely.
good. Thank you.
We are balancing many things.
I know you are. Thank you. Thank you for doing it.
I would now like a motion to assign George Gardner as an additional member to the facilities committee.
So moved.
Second?
Any conversation?
George is great.
George has expressed interest and is kind of been attending the meetings anyway, so.
You can't get rid of him, so.
All in favor of assigning George to the Facilities Committee, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you, George.
Thank you.
Next meeting agenda items. You've generated a list. Anyone have anything else at this point that they want to add to that?
If we're gonna, on the high school facilities committee, there were several members of the public, and we might have a short conversation about whether we want to have the possibility of adding members of the public to that. And certainly, it was helpful to have people, the public, on the board, on that committee
Right.
before.
And the Community Engagement Committee currently has members on it that are not
Yes.
board members. So I
So we
think
don't
that,
need to.
that precedent has been
No, I don't think so, yeah,
established.
there's a precedent.
So we can just add a member from the community without having to go through a formal process?
That's what you guys.
If what we did was legal, then yes.
Well, because
There's a precedent.
I think what we've been told is we don't really have any power. Any decisions get made by the board, so any decisions you make as a committee or recommendations you bring to the board.
So I actually, because of that, because the facilities committee does, we don't make decisions, but we do make recommendations, and those recommendations have significant financial implications. I think I would feel more comfortable, just from a process sense, if we took a few minutes and talked about that publicly.
Can we do it under the Facility Committee report?
Why don't we talk, when we're
Okay.
building the agenda, we can talk about that.
Okay. Anything else from anyone?
We might have a charge for you, but I can't promise.
Next time?
First, the Community Engagement Committee.
The thing at the bottom of the poster?
Yeah, you wrote that by yourself. We
Great.
might have a charge.
Ooh,
Yeah.
ooh.
And we have to
Very
change our
nice.
meeting too,
Okay.
since
Rocky
that open
road
house got
here.
Yeah,
rescheduled.
we're gonna
All
have
right,
to
at this
change
point,
that.
I would like to take a motion to go into a final executive session for personnel matter.
Moved. I moved, sorry.
Second.
So I'm being invited? No? Okay. I just want to make sure.
All right, so all in favor of going into executive?
Aye.
Aye.